If you want to win in the generative AI age, you must have a vision. With every release, it's 100% clear. Anthropic has a vision. So much vision that they gave it to our computers with the brand new computer use tools. By now, you've already seen how the computer tool works running on the new Claude 3.5 Sonnet. Let's go deeper and explore the less discussed tools engineers are sleeping on because it's not flashy and it's not cool at first glance. But make no mistake, the text editor and the bash tool are critical infrastructure for asymmetric software engineering in the age of generative AI. Why? Because engineers that fully control their terminal and their editor can ingest and synthesize information like no other. I've wired up a proof of concept of these tools and have started putting them to work already. Let's walk through productivity gains you can get using these tools today. And then we'll speculate on the question, where is Claude 3.5 Opus? I don't know if you've noticed, but any mention of Claude 3.5 Opus has been removed from Anthropic's models page. Why has Anthropic completely removed any mention of it from their documentation? So in this proof of concept, you can see I have three classes here. We have a logger, we have the editor class, and then we have the bash session. Let's go ahead and start with Anthropic's new bash tools. In the terminal, I'm using Astral's UV Python package manager. So I'll type UV run main, and then I'll specify my prompt. So let's just start with something simple and work our way up. I'll say list all files in current dir tree form depth 2, and I'll use the mode bash. So before we run this, we'll open up the file explorer so you can just see a couple of files we have in this directory. And now let's go ahead and run our tool. So we have a bunch of information here. Let's go ahead and review the log. If we open up sessions, you can see a couple previous sessions here. And now you can see our logging for this run. So this is really interesting, right? We have our bash command logging everything that's happening. And you can see our output for the tool run, right? So output for tree-l2. And remember, I asked for list all files in the current dir tree form depth 2. And that's exactly what we got. We open up AI docs, we have those files exactly. And of course, we have the README, we have backup, we have an app database that we'll look at here in a second. We have our editor dir, and then we have our images, and of course, we have these sessions. This bash tool converted our natural language command into the correct bash command. Let's go ahead and push this further. Let's clear and run another command. So let's just add on to it, right? So we'll run UV run main, list all files, tree form depth 2. So just running that same prompt, and then we'll say first 5 lines of the newest log file. And let's make sure we get our -- mode bash. So let's kick this off. Open up our file explorer. You can see. Okay, so let's check out our log. Let's see what we have now. So you can see same as before. Our tree command ran just as before, right? So we can see here the new Claude 3.5 model is consistent. That's good to see. And now if we move down to our second command, we can see here that Claude is picking up on this command here, right? So it's saying here, let's go ahead and collapse this. Now let's find the newest log file and read the first 5 lines. You can see here there's some type of chain of thought, some type of iterative process happening within Claude's thought process. It's thinking through what it needs to do to accomplish the next task we've given it. Now it's referring to the files in the sessions directory. It's looking at our newest file, and interestingly, right, the newest file is the file that's getting logged actively. So it's getting a little meta here, but what we end up with here is Claude properly printing out, you can see here, here's the actual run. Claude is properly printing out its previous brand new messages. And if we go ahead and search, right, first, let's list all the files in tree form and scroll up, you can see that line exactly. I'm running commands in natural language, and not only is Claude getting the order of the commands properly, it's getting all the commands right. You can see here we have our pricing calculations set up here. So far, no hiccups. I'm really impressed. Things are looking really good. We are running arbitrary bash commands with our brand new bash tool. Let's just keep pushing this tool further. So Inside of this code base, I have this data app DB, and this is a simple SQLite database with a single table inside of it. So we can go ahead and see exactly what's in this SQLite database with SQLite 3. We'll pass the path to this, and then we'll say .schema. So you can see here we have a simple logging table. So let's have the Claude Bash computers tool modify this database. Let's go ahead and reuse this same command, and I'll say using SQLite 3, update existing data / app.db, read schemas, then insert these 5 lines in our SQLite database logging table. Okay, so I'm giving it all the information it needs to complete this request without going through any of the motions of actually writing these commands out myself. So let's see how well this does here. We'll fire this off and we'll load up that log file. You can see it's running that tree command again. Let's go ahead and get a refresh here. You can see it is looking at the definitions, right? So it's automatically looking at that, right? It ran that schema method and fantastic. And it selected back out the rows here. So you can see a summary here at the end of the log. I have completed all the requested tasks, listed files in tree form with dep 2, found and displayed the first 5 lines, read the schema, inserted 5 lines into the logging table, and then verified the insertions. Okay, you can see the pricing here. That cost us a total of 4 cents, mostly input costs, right? You can see all the input tokens from ingesting the relevant information to make the commands, right? We can search our output for. Observability is ultra important when you're working with these tools. I always like to start with a simple logging file and then progress from there. We can just search these, right? You can see we have a total of 4 outputs. Tree-L2. Let's go ahead and look at that next command. ls-t sessions.log. So now our agent has read this content, and now it's checking our SQLite database schemas, right? So you can see here executing bash command. It's first reading in the database structure, just like we asked. And then if we scroll down, you can see here, now it's going to actually execute this statement. This is not a trivial bash statement. Running this command, and then it's doing some wonderful sed string parsing automatically for us, grabbing those lines, placing it inside our database. Then Claude is going back in and verifying that these items are in there, right? So we're saying select star from logging, order by ID, descending, limit 5. And it's getting those items right back out. And we can manually just go in and run this exact same command to verify, because with great logging, again, observability is really important. You can always just backtrack and see what your agents and see what your prompts are doing. So we're just going to literally copy paste this in, and you can see there we're getting our new previous logging messages. So this is really cool, right? If you want to, you can also run this entire chain again with this -- no AGI flag. And all this is going to do is it'll run, and instead of actually executing the sub-process commands, it will just return a mock response, and that'll be fed back into the AI agent. Obviously, it won't completely work because it's not running the real commands and it's not getting the real results. But, just a test, you can pass in this flag if you want, so that, Claude doesn't fully take over your computer. This is pretty incredible stuff. We have a simple loop giving Claude the space to call tools, get feedback from the tool, and then rerun the next command, right? So it's a really simple process of letting Claude ingest a prompt, and then it runs the LLM, decides what tool to run. It passes us the tool, we execute the tool, and then we give the response back to Claude, and it just repeats in that loop. And if you were to build a real application or a real agent around this, what you would actually do is, after you finish an execution, you would simply create some type of human in the loop feedback. The simplest version of this is to run a while loop or set up a personal AI assistant to control the history and to interact with you with voice commands, right? So that this loop would continue. You can also set up user interfaces to interact with this or any other agent. So as always, let's start simple. You can see we have our editor directory here with this ping-pong.txt. I'll say uv run main, and I'll pass in the prompt, update pong to ping in our ping-pong.txt file. Okay, and we'll run this. The default mode is text, so we can just kick this off. You can see we're in file editor mode here, and we should be able to see that value get update to ping. So that just happened in real time. We didn't do or say anything. Let's go ahead and just, play with this a little bit. Add 30 more pings, 30 pongs, ping-pong.update. Okay, so this is like the dumbest, simplest thing we can do with this file, but it's a good place to start, right? So we're just literally saying update this file in some silly arbitrary way. Okay, great. So now we have, 30 ping, 30 pong, fantastic. So let's do something more legitimate with this tool, right? We'll run uv run main, write a detailed 3 use case document for LLMs to a LLM use cases .markdown. Then into 3 going into detail about each use case. So here we have 2 high-level commands that we want done, right? We want an original use case doc, and then we want Claude to break it up into 3 additional files. So let's kick that off. Eyes on the editor directory here, as Claude's going to be generating these files for us. Okay, you can see LLM use case here. We can hop into this and get a nice breakdown view here, right? Content generation, code development, programming, data analysis. You can see content generation now has its own file. Very, very nice, right? That is one of the go-to use cases for LLMs. And of course, code development. This is a big one. And all these documents are happening. They're getting generated on the fly, live. And here's our data analysis. That was really incredible. Let's go ahead and backtrack. You can see the cost here. That costs around 8 cents to fire off. And a lot of this is the input tokens, right? After every tool call, we're always passing back the response from the tool back into Claude, right? So that's going to see our costs stack up over time. Let's go ahead and just break down the exact calls. So if we search command, you can see all the commands that Claude is running. We should just have for create command. And that's exactly what we have, right? So for create commands, you can see all the content for every single creation statement. You can see the exact path, right? We're always getting back this /repo/file. And the /repo is what you'll update or replace to be the true path that you're writing to. So we update and replace that to be our editor dir. That's configurable via an environment variable. And you can see, just like the bash tool, the file editor tool is just doing all of this work for us, right? So you can imagine you're passing in a lot more important information and you're treating this tool like an agent. I hope it's becoming really, really clear what's happening with every video release we have on the channel. Every Monday, we're getting closer to having these pieces of software that are operating for us. And with this release, Anthropic is pushing us into the future with these opinionated, domain-specific set of tools to solve a specific set of problems. Now, I hope that sounds familiar because it is. We've been talking about it on the channel. When you compose prompts around a specific use case and you compose those tools that your prompt can call, what do you get? You get an AI agent. This is where everything's going. This is what's coming next. AI agents are here in 2025. They're going mainstream. You're here early. We're talking about this early. Get your hands on these tools and start utilizing these. We can now craft arbitrary prompts, pass any information we want to, and instead of a text-to-text prompt, what we're getting now is text-to-action prompt. These are text-to-action prompts. With bash commands and with file editing and with computer use, our LLMs are starting to control things. They're starting to manipulate things, create, read, update, delete. They're modifying information. They're running concrete commands that allow them to do more. Now my LLM can operate on all of my files with and for me. This is a huge, huge deal. This is why I wanted to emphasize these 2 tools, because it's a great way to work up to where everything is going. As an engineer, the file editor and the terminal are critical tools for us. And if you have agents operating in your terminal and your file editor for you in parallel to you, you're going to get asymmetric returns on your time. So this is awesome. Let's go ahead and make a couple tweaks and just show off a couple other things you can do with this. UV run main, and we'll say read LLM use cases, right? So we'll have it fire off its read functionality, then update it to contain a mermaid diagram of the use cases, and we'll say LR flowchart. Okay, now we're going to read this file in, right? So this is an existing file, it already exists, and it's going to modify. You can see that modification came right in automatically. We now have a flowchart, right? It ingested the file, it reread the file, and then it made a modification to it, right? If we go into preview mode here, we can see our mermaid chart. So now we're rapidly creating this documentation, this markdown file, this plan, whatever you're working on. You now have these agents to help you operate on it very, very quickly. It's so important to be wiring these tools up I need to be keeping track of what's important. This is an important tool. The file editing tool and the bash tool are ultra important. I'm going to be wiring these up in my CLI, in Ada, the personal AI assistant for engineering we've been building on the channel. I'm going to be using and deploying these tools every single day. So this code base is going to be in the description for you to check out and to get yourself up and running with your text editor and your bash AI agents. I want to hop back to the high level here and just discuss where things are going. So you might have noticed these are just tool calls, right? There's actually nothing super sophisticated going on here, at least not at first sight, right? Not at first glance. What they're doing here is actually really interesting. The value proposition of these tools is that Claude 3.5 Sonnet has been fine-tuned to operate these tools very well. What we're seeing with this is an interesting direction for model providers like OpenAI, Google, Facebook, and Anthropic to release sets of tools to perform specific tasks very well with a model fine-tuned to excel at their tools. And I hope this sounds familiar. These tool belts built to solve a specific set of problems are effectively pre-baked AI agents. We dove into the composability of prompts into AI agents in our previous video, and it looks like we're right on track. This is a great direction from a business perspective because now Anthropic can build models and sets of tools that perform well on specific benchmarks and sell that tool belt as an AI agent. So these companies are starting to turn all their work with LLMs into concrete value, into concrete output. They're saying, fantastic, we've built these next generation tools. Let's actually solve real problems with them. And they're starting at a great place. They're starting at the bottom level of where all software problems are solved, the engineer's tool belt. These tools stood out to me right away for that reason. Text editor and bash. This is where engineers live. This is where great engineers get tons of work done quickly. They're a computer tool, obviously very flashy, very cool, great for RPA, but the real work for engineering happens with these two tools. As a side note, these companies are trying to create vendor lock-in with their specific sets of tools and their, fine-tuned models that are built to use those tools well. So keep your eyes on releases like this. This is a trade-off and it's a risk we just kind of have to accept in the generative AI age because these companies are leading the way for what's possible. This is fantastic. I'm loving Claude 3.5 upgraded or Claude 3.5 new. Definitely could have named that a little bit better, but that's old news. What is interesting is the question, where is Opus? Where is Claude 3.5 Opus? I always keep a close eye on the big three model pages and Olama to, just kind of see where the models are, what's going on. And also I've referenced these documents a lot. One thing I noticed right away during this upgrade, and one of my favorite engineers, Simon Willison, also pointed out, Claude 3.5 Opus has been completely removed from their documentation. What is going on? Why have they done this? Is Opus 3.5 off the table? I have a couple ideas as to why Anthropic removed it. Let's just walk through them. And I want to get your thoughts on what you think is going on here. So my first kind of prediction is that Claude 3.5 Sonnet is Claude 3.5 Opus, and they've just rebranded it. Although this model is a massive improvement, I don't think it performs like we would expect an Opus 3.5 to. So they just rebranded it to Claude 3.5 in a panic. And, this is not the most glamorous case. You don't want a top model provider making strategic decisions like this, but it's an interesting prediction. I think this is a probably mid to low probability. So, maybe 10 to 30% possible. The other prediction is that they just deleted it on purpose, right? They just got rid of it. Claude 3.5 is a great model with great speed, great performance. It follows instructions better than any model. It writes the best. And minus O1 preview, it's also the best for coding. More on AI coding with these models in future videos. Claude 3.5 basically wins in every category. This is a really interesting case if they just simply delete it, but then we have to ask the next logical question. Why did they delete it, right? Is it a funding issue? Do they not have the compute? Or is it just a positive strategic decision? Are they just focusing on one powerful model and one fast model, right? Which is going to be 3.5 Haiku. I don't really see Anthropic being short on ideas. and innovation to push on. And it seems more likely that it's just a decision that they made more than a funding or compute issue because they're firing on all cylinders, right? All public sources state Anthropic performing really, really well. So the last case, and this is the prediction that's the most grounded in reality, is that they simply removed the documentation because it's just not ready yet. I put this at like mid-tier probability. They just need more time with it. They're expanding it. They're adding pieces of chain of thought or, next level prompt chaining inside the model. Who really knows? Only they really know what's coming next on the innovation side of things. They're one of 3 leaders in model innovation. So only they really could know what's coming next. To be fair though, Claude 3.5 Sonnet is an incredible model, especially after the upgrade. So I'm not super worried about where 3.5 Opus is. And if it comes out, I'll be happy to see it. If they move on from it and just go right to Claude 4, that's fine too. Let me know what you think in the comments. Where do you think Claude 3.5 Opus has gone? Why is it not on their model page anymore? So I hope you can see this theme. AI agents are here. In 2025, they're growing mainstream. If you're here, if you're watching this video, you're here early, it's time to capitalize. As engineers, the question we must ask ourselves now is, how quickly, how much, and how often are we deploying compute in our development workflows? Right now, this takes the form of prompts, AI agents, and personal AI assistants. These are the big 3 you need to be focusing your time and effort on if you want those asymmetric results. Follow the channel to stay locked in to what you can do with this incredible generative AI technology available to you. Stay focused and keep building.